to tech innovators, investors, business leaders is unrivaled.
My key takeaways, I think, are AI, partnerships, and talent. So there's been a lot of talk already at this event about AI, understandably. The key, I think, now is about how we address AI in terms of safety and ethics. So Rishi Sunak touched upon that this morning, which I think is a really important topic. And in order to achieve that, you need partnerships. So partnerships is key in technology, whether that's in fintech or banking or across the broader ecosystem. And then finally, it's been a tough year for the tech industry in 2023 in terms of the amount of jobs that are lost. But talent is still key. We need those skills to really drive technology into the future.
We ran a security decision makers survey last year. We looked at 600 decision makers across cybersecurity, asked them one of the questions was about the most serious security issues that they'd faced over the previous 12 months. And we found that 23% of organisations either have no security issues, so they believe, or had very minor security issues with limited impact. We've just got the interim results back for this year's survey as well. We find exactly the same. There's minor differences on the numbers for the limited impact, but the serious impact is right up there again, with still 3/4 of organisations suffering security incidents and breaches. So it's a real problem today for organisations.
I think we need a fundamentally different approach than the one we've been using so far. If you look at the European AI Act, it took 5 years to get to where we are with it. And the draft was ratified yesterday, but it will take another couple of years to actually finalize everything. Meanwhile, generative AI happened, ChatGPT happened, and regulators were caught by surprise and had to scramble to get some provisions into the existing draft. So we obviously can't do that because technology is always moving and moving fast. So people have been calling for creation of a global international regulatory agency where regulators meet maybe once a month and work in a dedicated manner. There's a challenge with that though, actually multiple challenges. One of them is that they would give up their national sovereignty to some extent. But this is something perhaps could be worked out, because if there is a desire to achieve that, I'm sure we'll find a way.
So what we're really seeing here is that's provided by the image sensor. Image sensor, aka camera, for a lot of other people. But the cameras themselves are evolving all the time as well. And everything is around how quickly you can process those visual images. And the technology play that then happens is you have different display types, and then you have different memory capabilities that then sit with those displays. Pressure sensing seems like a really geeky approach, but nowadays you'll have like a Google Maps, which you go into a shopping center, you need to know whether you're ground floor, first floor, second floor, third floor. It's a totally different shopping environment, depending on which floor you are. So you need some pretty accurate pressure sensing to be able to level that up. And again, if you're going to do a boatload of exercise, then potentially you need to know what altitude you've covered over your run, cycle, or whatever it is. So again, the sensing capabilities that you need to put in phones to make that happen becomes more and more brutal.
There has been a lot of conversations just today at the AI Summit around regulation, and it's really timely at the moment. In fact, coincidentally, today the EU Parliament passed the first stage of the AI Act, which is a very important piece of legislation governing the responsible use of AI. And we think more governments will follow. Also last week we had the Atlantic Declaration, which was between the US and the UK, which had many components to it, but one of those was ensuring those two very powerful governments work together to ensure that AI is deployed responsibly. And we expect this to continue to follow. Our surveys show that most enterprises that are deploying AI actually welcome regulation around the space. And I think, the analogy I use is around traffic laws. Back when we were driving horse and buggies or very slow automobiles, the need for traffic laws was limited. But as those vehicles became more powerful, the need for more regulation and laws was needed. And the same thing with AI. As it becomes more powerful, as it becomes more widespread, more regulation is going to come, and we think it's going to be a conversation for years to come.
Well, I think generative AI has tremendous potential in the healthcare industry, all the way from drug discovery through to care delivery. And we're seeing a lot of experimentation with these tools in the healthcare sector. But right now, there's a lot of concerns around the use of generative AI in healthcare, from privacy concerns, reliability, accountability, and also accuracy, which is one of the main things to help with adoption of these tools. So it can help also with things like patient empowerment, streamlining administrative tasks, and that would really help, because what we're seeing right now with our survey data is that healthcare is really looking to AI to help with operational efficiencies. And I see in the short term, generative AI helping to reduce some of that administrative burden on clinicians and other healthcare professionals through automating some of those routine documentation type tasks. Like it can help with summarization, help with summarizing a lot of amounts of research, and also sift through large amounts of unstructured data. So I see in the short term, we're looking at adoption in low-risk administrative tasks, but ultimately I see it going further and adding more and more value incrementally through to care delivery.
Well, that's a good question, and I like the way you put it, changing, because it's already changed the way developers build software. It's changed the way we build any kind of software, whether that's building applications, database-driven solutions, middleware, and AI itself. It's basically come in long before ChatGPT, mind you, with, I think the earliest instance that we all took note of was Copilot, which was released by Microsoft as a part of its GitHub solution, which is used by most developers everywhere. And what it immediately drove home with everyone was that no longer do I need to go consult Stack Overflow, notebooks, books, etc., to try to remember some obscure API or method or some pattern that I just I know I want to do this, but I can't remember quite how. That's all gone. You can just basically speed through that and then check your work. But that's the other part of this change. The second part is that developers have become the caretakers of the code that is created by AI. So they're not just saying, write me a script to do something. They're saying, write me a script to do something, and then spending the next 20 minutes debugging and verifying, making sure it's testable, making sure it's secure. So it's not an end. It's not the end of the process. It's simply an accelerator of an existing process, so to make developers more productive.
The first, obviously, generative AI. When we talk about that, when we heard about folks discussing this, there are a couple different issues there, right? Where's the ROI? What use cases are going to make money? We had a couple roundtables happening, so executives coming together from enterprises, sitting down, understanding where the money is going to come from, who's funding these generative AI projects. And what we see is a healthcare and the entertainment industry specifically around creative are those two specific areas. But I think the interesting thing there is a lot of these executives are saying they realize generative AI does have some hype in it, and we expect that to subside. We now believe that these executives are taking that back into their business, into the enterprise, and fusing that, saying, okay, let's take a step back, and this is expensive. This is very hard to do. It's not a quick turnaround project. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think the second takeaway then that I would mention is the EU regulation. So actually during our first day, EU came together, voted on the new regulation. They put this new AI regulation framework together, voted that through. There's a few more steps there, but it's one of the big first steps that we've seen to regulating AI here in Europe. And I think that is going to be really interesting as well. We heard that on stage, off stage, people really concerned, quite a bit of lawyers in the audience, understanding what that means as well. But I think the third thing is really interesting. Talked to a lot of leaders here, and the question is, what do you expect a year from now? And most don't know what to expect. They're saying the future is unsure, which is concerning. And on one hand, it's a bit nebulous. On the other hand, that's positive. Maybe we won't see as much rigidity, a lot of innovation in the sector in the next year. But that is a very interesting takeaway from quite a few leaders in the industry.